Hello, everyone. This is Judymay Murphy. Welcome to Sunday Tribe. And today we're going to be talking about radical faith. And I think that it's a subject that we really need to look at because it really is the juice for everything that we do. When we don't have radical faith and a belief that absolutely something is going to turn out the way that we envisage it, the way that we dream it, then life can be very effortful. If we feel that we're just reproducing what was created before or just getting by, it doesn't really feel like being alive, does it? It feels like just kind of going through the motions. The magic is missing. So this is what we want to do. We want to get ourselves to a place where we can just let go. We can just know that things are turning out the way that it is that we want them to turn out. One of my favorite quotes when I was in my 20s was from a dancer, a choreographer actually, called Yvonne Rainer. And she was the first person who in the 1960s, she said, the mind is a muscle. The mind is a muscle. And I used to really love that idea. And so I was thinking about, so if the mind is a muscle, what is faith? And for me, then faith is a fist. Faith is the thing that just like gathers itself together and can just blast through anything. It can kind of just go first and just make the rest of the way easy. And the first thing that we have to realize is that there's a profound difference, a profound energetic difference between hope and faith. A lot of people say, oh, I have faith. I really hope it's going to happen. Those two things are very, very different. Hope is kind of like the last gasp of air. Faith is the fresh breeze that is constantly blowing through your life. And if you're feeling that you're just constantly just about getting by, just about keeping on top of things, just about feeling good enough about stuff, that you're just about holding on to the relationship, or there's just enough there to keep him or her around, that you got just enough money in the bank to feed yourself, just enough to make this happen, but not this thing that you really want, that's kind of like gasping for air. And it makes me actually think of a beautiful friend of mine who is gasping for air these days. She has a lung condition and she's on oxygen. And she is really having to reach not only for air, but there's no point in her reaching for hope. She has to reach for faith. She's kind of just looking out for miracles right now, and she's finding them everywhere because she's looking. So what is the difference between hope and faith operationally? So, how is this useful to us, right? It's all very good having these big ideas, but how is this actually useful? Well, when you're feeling hope, you're feeling a kind of a yearning. And that yearning is because you're pulling toward the thing that you want, but you're also feeling pulled back. You're feeling like it's a difficult thing to get to, like you're going to have to kind of crawl through mud to get to it. But faith is a lot more freeing. Faith is just like, if I just show up and just do my little part every single day, the best that I can, it's showing up. This is not all my job. This is not all about me. There are other people out there creating things that are going to build into the dream. There is somebody out there who is just going to recognize me the moment that they see me, and they're going to adore me from that moment, and we're going to get into a relationship, and it's going to be amazing. That it's not about saying that there won't be any things to learn, any things to move through, but it is about saying it's not having to be as effortful as I've made it up until now. So why do we have that phrase, faith the size of a mustard seed? You know that phrase from the Bible, if you have faith the size of a mustard seed, all things are possible. Well, I believe that phrase comes from the fact that you're either doing faith or you're not. There's no such thing as having lots of faith or having a little bit of faith. All you need is a little bit or a lot, whatever you want to call it. It's either on or off. It's either there or it's not there. You're either believing for your dream or you're not believing for it. And you know what? You have no evidence right now of either. Think of the biggest thing that you are dreaming for right now, that you're wanting to make happen in your life, that you're wanting to have show up. And you don't have any evidence either direction. But what do a lot of people do? They look at everyone else around them. They say, well, based on the fact that most people that I know in my life don't have that thing, or don't have that experience, based on the fact that looking at the news, or I'm reading a newspaper, based on the fact that most people don't have peace, most people don't have a great family life, I'm going to take that as my evidence that it's not going to happen. Well, faith isn't about evidence. If you need evidence, it's not faith, it's proof. It's a completely different animal. Faith is only possible when you're knowing that there is no evidence. Oh, there's a really great line from the 1930s movie Miracle on, is it Miracle on 30? It's anyway, it's the one about Santa Claus, Miracle on something street, and in it sort of says that, faith is believing when there basically is no evidence, when common sense tells you not to, is the way that the line goes. So this is what we've got to start doing. We've got to start saying, I don't have evidence right now, but my lack of evidence is evidence of nothing. My lack of evidence is evidence of nothing, or my negative evidence is evidence of nothing. We're so good at digging up that acorn and seeing if it's turning into an oak tree yet, that we don't have the faith that what is happening below ground is happening, that we're watering that acorn, that we are, putting on the mulch, that we're doing everything that we need to do, that the sun is shining without our help. We've done our part. And that sometimes all we need to do is just keep showing up in faith and stop digging up that acorn because it's kind of getting in the way, right? Stop telling yourself that the money's not coming, and then you panic and you get tight and you're not making any sales, and then you panic even more and not making any more sales, rather than, yeah, you know what? I've got a great product. I'm doing a great service. There are people out there who really, really need and want this. Let me just find them. Let me just breathe into this. So ask yourself, is the faith there or is it not? And have you kind of just replaced it with hope? Hope and yearning are good. Hope and yearning are better than nothing, but they're not nearly as powerful as faith. Because faith is based on you and every single person on the planet. It's a belief in good that allows faith. But if you're believing that you're the only capable person, if you're believing that there isn't some kind of higher power there who's looking out for you, and that higher power might be your better self, it might be the community, it might be the future, it might be science, whatever your higher power is for you, it might be a very traditional belief in God. When it comes to faith, that doesn't matter. But what does matter is it on or is it off? And so what I would like to do is I'd like to challenge you for the next week to live in pure faith. Say to yourself, my faith is on. And I may have evidence to the contrary, but I'm choosing not to look at that evidence. I'm choosing instead to believe. And it's the people who do that who make things happen. So let's take an example. If you have someone who believes that the weather is going to stay fine enough for them to go out and take a lovely walk, they're going to go out, they're going to step outside the door. The person who doesn't believe it is going to spend so long collecting umbrellas and preparing and getting galoshes together and saying, look, if I'm not back by this time, come and fetch me in the car. And by the time they set out, yeah, the rain might start to fall. The person who just sort of says, you know what, I'll grab a hat and I'm off. And you know what, it might start to rain, but I have faith that even if it starts to rain, I'm going to find somewhere to shelter, and it's going to be somewhere beautiful. Wouldn't you rather be standing under a gorgeous oak tree, completely sheltered, looking at over a lake, looking at these beautiful animals swimming around and knowing that you're going to be able to set foot outside again, or even just feeling the rain on your face? Wouldn't you rather that than being locked up inside, cooped up, fearfully wondering, hoping, maybe tomorrow, maybe next day? Faith is about stepping out. Faith is about saying that no matter what happens to me, I can't have evidence that it's going to turn out perfectly, but I have faith that I'm going to be protected no matter what happens to me, that I'm going to learn, that I'm going to be able to find the juice and the energy and the amazing awesomeness in that experience, in that moment. And this is what we need to do. So I'm going to challenge you for 1 week to step out in faith. Say to yourself, I don't know how this phone call is going to go, and I'm going to make the phone call in full faith that it's going to be what I need right now, in full faith that what I need is the momentum right now. That there might be someone who you don't think they're going to react very well when you call them up to ask them to meet with you, or when you give them piece of information that you have, or when you share a part of yourself. I'm going to tell this person that I love them, but oh my goodness, I don't know if they're going to say it back. I now tell family members that I love them. We grew up in a family where you just did not do that. You just did not do that. And I do it. And sometimes I get, oh, that's lovely, thanks for saying that. And sometimes I get, I love you too. And sometimes I get nothing. And it's okay. It's not about that. It's about having faith in your own creative magic. And another way that we can start to really build our faith is to ask bigger. This is how we activate faith. Because right now, when you've been asking for less and less and less, so it started out you were dreaming really big. I'm going to have this, I'm going to have this house, I'm going to have this apartment, I'm going to have this lake house, I'm going to have these animals, I'm going to have these people, I'm going to have these experiences, I'm going to have this career, I'm going to have this money, I'm going to have, right? We started out in full faith, asking. Yeah, that's for me, that's for me. I identify that, I claim that, Thank you for that, thank you for that, thank you for that. And then we allowed ourselves to get a little bit closed down. We started to look at the evidence. Oh, that didn't come yet. That didn't come easily. That didn't happen at all. That completely blew up in my face. Oh my gosh, divorce? That was so not on the dream board, right? And as we started to cramp our territory in our own imagination, we started to deactivate our faith. And when that light is off, remember, it's either on or it's off. When that light is off for much of the time, we're not going to be able to see. We're not going to be able to see the next step. That's all we need to see. So the way that we're going to activate our faith again is we're going to ask bigger. So if you ask for things that are instant and easy and things that you've created time and time again, you don't need faith because you have certainty. If you ask to get to the end of the month, well, that's not about faith. That doesn't activate your faith. You don't have to have the light on. In the same way as, you know how to get from your bedroom to the bathroom in the middle of the night, maybe without the light on. Okay? You can do it. You got certainty. You know the steps, right? But when you're really journeying out, the light needs to be full on. It needs to be fully clear. So let's start to ask bigger. Let's start to really live in faith and ask for things that we have no evidence for how they're going to show up. Now, this isn't a case of just, ask and you'll instantly receive. It really is. Ask in full faith. A lot of people ask, but they ask from a place of, prove it to me. They ask from a place of, well, if this stuff works, if this quantum stuff works, if the secret works, then, I should be getting this. Look, I'm happy. I'm doing this. I'm in the vortex. I'm going for it. So let's prove this stuff. But again, looking for proof means you are not in faith. So instead, let's just sit there. Let's just notice what happens. Let's just notice. Let's get curious about this rather than testing it. Because as soon as you start to test it, that energy is tight and you close it down. You switch off that light. And the great thing is that the bigger you ask, the more you have to release it to others. The more you have to say, I'm not going to be able to do this on my own. I'm going to have to create team here. I'm going to have to trust that there's people out there that know how to do this stuff because I don't know how to do that. I don't know, I know how to do my part, but I know how to create that content, but I don't know how to, raise that investment money, or I know how to raise the investment money, but I have no clue how to create the content. So as soon as you start to dream bigger, you realize that it's not about you. You have to start to trust in others and trust in that higher power and trust that what isn't immediately at hand right now is out there in the universe and is traveling towards you as you look for it in curiosity. So let's start to come from that higher place. Let's start to ask really bigger. So just take a moment now to ask bigger. That's it. What I love about faith is it puts you in the arena. I remember that what I was desiring more than anything else on the planet when I was 16 years old was the attention of a certain pop star. Now, this story is a very small story. It might seem very insignificant and very silly to you, but you know what? A lot of what you want might seem silly and insignificant to someone else. You might want 1 million, which might seem insignificant and silly to a billionaire. You might want a great love relationship, which might seem obvious to someone who's already in love. All right, so I'm telling you this story just so that you can see how this works, about faith putting you in the arena. Because it's only when you're actually in the place that you can do what you need to do. It doesn't do everything for you, but it puts you in the arena. So when I was 16 and I wanted this pop star's attention, I had the most amazing night of faith. I had been to the concert the night before, the first time I'd seen them live, and I just knew that what I was craving, what I was magnetized for, was like what I was vibrating for, was also vibrating for me. I just knew that I was supposed to be connected, not just as a fan, but be massively connected with this extraordinary man. He was a poet, like just had really woken me like nothing else had done yet in my life. It was a real awakening. It was a real road to Damascus for me. And these road to Damascus, as you might have thought, like, it might have come through the nuns or through my religious background or through something more wise. But no, it came through a pop star. Let's never judge the way that our growth arrives at us. So what happened was I had full faith that we were going to connect. So in that full faith, I stayed home and I wrote a poem. I wrote a poem for him, really celebrating what I felt we were sharing. And I wrote it out beautifully in ink and put it on lovely paper in a lovely envelope. And I just knew that I was going to meet him. So I got myself into town, just got on a bus and went into town and went to Grafton Street, which is the main street in Dublin. And I just walked down Grafton Street. Now, I didn't know where they were staying. I didn't know had they left the country. I knew nothing. I was just showing up in faith that I had this feeling and I was vibrating for this and it was meant to be. And there, at 9 o'clock on a Saturday morning, he was standing there, just standing there on a corner. And I think about it now, it gives me goosebumps because it was just so extraordinary, so unlikely. And I just walked up and I said, "Here, this is for you." He was like, "For me?" Now, we were at the time two of the most timid people on the planet. So we pretty much just kind of glanced at each other and then scarpered. And then the band stayed on the next night and played another gig, an extra one. They scheduled it. And I went again and got backstage and he said, "I love your poetry. Is that your address down the side?" And he started to write to me and we started this interaction and I would see them whenever they would come into town. And it was very, very important to me because it was one of the first people that saw me. But what I want you to get from this is that is only possible when you show up in faith. So what is it for you? What is it that you are just so excited about, but maybe aren't taking any action around because it doesn't feel intellectually like it would be worth it? Sunday is the best day for this because the chances are that you are less scheduled today. So you're going to be able to do this. You're going to be able to show up in full faith, show up in the arena. And this is what Theodore Roosevelt was talking about. Let me see if I can remember this quote. It's quite a long one. He said, "It is not the critic who counts. It is not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena." Okay, there's more to it, but that is the point. The point is the credit belongs to the person who's in the arena, the person who shows up. And you need to always, always be that person. Why are you not being that person as consistently as you could be? Because you are self-protecting emotionally. Because you don't have faith that it's meant for you. As we get older, we've been disappointed so many times that it's natural that we would start to constrict. But we need to talk back to that part of the brain. That part of the brain is doing a very loving thing. It's trying to protect us. It's trying to say, we're not going to send you out into that arena again. Because you remember the last time you got mauled by a lion, you got swiped up by a gladiator. Honey, we love you. We're protecting you. So please don't go into the arena. But we need to talk back and say, this is okay. I've grown. I am now bigger than the gladiator. I am now more courageous than the lion. I am now more powerful than anything else that the world can throw at me. I am now a warrior. I am now strong. I am now showing up in that place. I've learned a lot. I've learned what I need to do. So I have full faith that when I show up in this arena, this is going to be the right place for me and this is going to be the right time. And also that I'm showing up in different arenas. I'm no longer showing up in arenas that are full of people who are out to get me. I'm showing up in arenas that are full of love, where different things are going to happen. It's not going to be a fight. It's going to be a conversation. It's not going to be competitive, it's going to be collaborative. Or if it is competitive, it's going to be joyfully competitive in a way that grows everybody involved. And this is what we need to do. We need to commit to this, because this is what we were sent here to do. And the other reason that our faith gets closed down is because it's not shared by other people. It's just not shared. So we might share our dream with someone. We might say, hey, you know what? I'm going to do this. And then they'll instantly jump in with a better idea because they're operating from a different place. They're operating from a place of the small part of your isness that they can have access to. They're operating from a small part of their world your world that they can understand. They're operating even from their own small view of what's possible in the world. And from that smaller place, maybe a very loving place, they're giving you this advice. And it can often close down your dream. It's only your job to see your dream. It's no one else's job. The saint, and I actually think of him as a poet, St. Augustine said, faith is to believe what you do not see. The reward of this faith is to see what you believe. I'll say that again. Faith is to believe what you do not see. Faith is to believe what you do not see. So there is no evidence. Everything that was ever created, have a look around you right now. Everything that you can see, everything that you have experienced today, even your own being, once didn't exist. It was once just an idea that was believed in but wasn't yet seen. So how much more evidence do we need that this stuff works, right? Everything around us, everything we are, everything we experience, everything we feel, everything that we touch, everything we taste, everything we smell, everything we hear, was once something that was just believed and had yet to be seen. So everything around us is evidence of faith, that faith works. Now for a moment, let's connect with all the things that are not. The people that don't exist, the opportunities that have not been created, the money that is not where it could be, the objects that have not yet been created, the inventions that have not yet been invented. Why are they not there? Simply because they were not believed, simply because the switch was turned to off. So again, faith is to believe what you do not see. The reward of this faith is to see what you believe. So let's make today a massive step forward in starting to see it, to make it manifest in the world, and to keep that light on through the difficult times. That's when the light needs to be on, through the darkness. You know, there's other light shining from other sources. We don't need it so much. This is when we really, really need it. So what we're going to do is we're kind of going to walk blind this week. We're going to dance blind as a tribe. We're going to say, you know what, right now, we've got our little light lit. It's lit from within. Maybe no one else can see it, but we can see it. And it's shining us from the inside, and it's shining us so, so brightly. And let's do this together. Let's live this week in faith. And if you feel that faith is kind of dimming, if it looks like that switch is going to turn off, just borrow some of mine. I have infinite faith in you, infinite faith in your ability, in your love, in your dream. I know that we're doing this. It's just a fact. It's, as far as I'm concerned, this is a done deal. You're absolutely beautiful. This is working. So once again, from St. Augustine, faith is to believe what you do not see. The reward of this faith is to see what you believe. It's coming, my friends. It's coming. Let's keep the light on. Have a beautiful Sunday.